DevOps friends, welcome to Full Stack Live, and I'm Jochen, the Monospace mentor, and this is the Monospace office hour. Welcome everyone, welcome Balthazar, Praxeus, the Laman. Laman tried to deploy a Django app on Railway and oh boy, still not deployed. Well, Python, am I right? And yeah, so the office hour means that you hop on qa.monospacementor.com, ask your questions there, and I sit here and drink coffee. And maybe answer your questions. If you're good. And if it's a good question. So, what is going on? Hydrate. Well, thank you for that, Tobit. That's very kind of you. Thank you for taking care of me. And since my coffee is still pretty hot, I'll take a swig from my water bottle instead. All right, so you go to qa.monospacementor.com. You can ask your questions there anonymously. Please don't abuse that. And I'll get your question on screen and on stream. And yeah, and then I'll try to come up with a useful answer. Praxeus says if I finished asking my question before the intro was done, that means I got it in before the stream, right? Oh, I love it when people are technically right, but completely unhelpful. And Balthazar complains, apparently I'm watching my friend and colleague besmirch my primary language. Oh, I will never besmirch anyone's language. We are absolutely language independent here at Monospace Industries. Python is a great language. I take everything back and claim the opposite. And so I hope that smooth things out between the two of us. The Laman asks, what is your primary language? My primary language is German. I also speak, apart from English, obviously, a little bit of Spanish. And I did have 8 years of Latin in school, and so I have lots of choice. All right, so we already have our first question on screen, and if anyone else wants to add to the list, go to qa.monospacementor.com. There you can post your questions and I'll pick them up. And if you find a question that you like, you can upvote it as well, so that that will make it easier for me to pick them in the right order. I'm still a little bit, yeah, I still need to warm up, and simply let's use this question for warm up. A question about our industry. Why don't we have a European Silicon Valley? It seems that in Europe we are behind tech developments. I agree. Always have been, I guess. And that's unfortunate. And I'm sure there are many, many reasons, more than I know of, and more than I can name. But there's also that thing that you can't just go and start a Silicon Valley. There need to be very specific circumstances for a Silicon Valley to get going. And, well, people over in California managed to get there. And that's also, I think, one of the important factors in that, and me not being an economist, I try to come up with something that is at least a little bit coherent here. If you have better insight, please go ahead and pop into chat and correct me, or compliment me, or compliment me. In the US, there has always been a different perspective on entrepreneurship. And I think that is part of the reason why Europe didn't develop anything like a Silicon Valley even up until today. And and that's also why the industry as a whole is lagging behind. For example, in many European countries, it's really hard to get venture capital. And by now, I'm actually not a fan of venture capital, because venture capital is the driving force behind the whole entitification that we are experiencing in all corners of our industry. But speaking from an entrepreneurial or economic standpoint, I mean, if you want to get ambitious business ventures off the ground, or have at least a chance of getting them off the ground, then you need capital. And if you can't come up with that capital by yourself, then you need investors. And yeah, so I think that's one of the most glaring issues that we have over in Europe, that investing and getting investments is really, really hard. There are also regulations, which for the most part I regard as a positive. Things being more regulated over here than in the US is, I think, a net positive, but of course it also can hamper things. It's not that I am looking on this topic completely uncritical, but and especially coming from Germany, who are still leading the world in terms of red tape. But yeah, regulations definitely are also an issue, because you can't just go and invest money and things like that. By the way, just as a complete aside, I noticed earlier that Murena is doing a crowd investment round. And you may ask, who is Murena? Murena is a small company behind the iOS mobile operating system, which is basically a de-Googled Android. They are very privacy focused, so they took Android and took everything that is basically surveillance capitalism, mostly driven by Google, of course, in this case. And they also partner with mobile phone vendors, like, for example, Fairphone, to sell phones that are basically fair hardware, and of course then their own fair software, especially in terms of privacy. And so if you have a little bit of spare cash that you can invest, Murena is definitely an interesting investment target, I think. And I'm actually thinking about investing myself a little bit. We'll see if it comes to that. I haven't decided yet, but that makes it easier for me to recommend it at this time, because it's not yet any kind of insider recommendation. So, getting back to the question of Silicon Valley, I think regulations, financial restrictions, and mentality are the main factors in why we don't have a sprawling digital industry over here in Europe. And well, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave that to you. It really helps reading up on the history of Silicon Valley. and how things got together, which entrepreneurs, which companies drove the whole development there. There are also interesting movies and TV series about it. Movies, for example, comes to mind Pirates of the Silicon Valley, and in terms of TV series, one that I have been watching lately is *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is an alternate reality kind of thing. It's not a documentary, but it's definitely done by people who knew what happened in Silicon Valley in the 80s and 90s, and it's an entertaining watch, definitely. If you'd like to dig deeper, as always, keep asking questions in the same vein. You can follow up on this question if you think there's a particular aspect that I left out or that you'd like me to get more into. Keep posting to qa.monospacementor.com. Okay, coffee temperature is leaving the hot lava area. Bethesda said, in some senses, I'm glad Europe has the good sense to not turn tech bros into celebrities. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing. Bethesda also commented, I find crowd investing neat. Done a round of it before. Oh, interesting. How did it go? It's hard to convey what it is, though, because Kickstarter and Indiegogo have muddied the waters. Yeah, so the platform on which Murena is doing their investment round is called Crowdcube, which seems to be specialized in crowd investment as opposed to crowdfunding, because Murena is already a running company. They've sold legions of phones and have been developing their E/OS for forever, but now they seem to aim at getting bigger and offering more services and things like that, and for that they seem to be looking for investments, and they actually already hit their investment goal. I think they aimed at 400k, and when I looked at it earlier, it was already beyond 500k, so they're doing great. Bethesda said, the future user base we were crowd investing from did not have a significant amount of capital to sling. Niceties of crowd investing platform handling, creating a legal entity for the investor to live under and manage that is quite nice. Yeah, I'm happy to see these things come up. Not that I'm looking into any investments at the moment. However, that being said, looking at the success that what's his name? Michael Lucas, I think, had with his recent Kickstarter for publishing his book, How to Run Your Own Mail Server, is definitely encouraging, and there is definitely a little thought in the back of my mind if I might want to crowdfund, for example, a comprehensive Linux course. But that will require a lot more thought before I can do any steps in that direction. Praxeus posted a question on our community forum. Speaking of community forum, if you'd like to join a community that is friendly and safe, where you can ask questions or simply have nice conversations, where there are events like community hangouts, member hot seat sessions and things like that, consider joining the Server Room, my membership community, starting at the price of a monthly Twitch subscription. Basically, you can join us and not only have a lot of fun, but also have a lot of learning for yourself. So let me quickly go and take a look at what Praxeus wrote. That is definitely a question that needs a little bit more thorough reading. However, what Praxeus says is I would like to get serious about a base image for workstations. Some of the features I would like to have are distro-box/containerized tooling for isolated development environments, easy package management, fully patched, updated kernel, not running a few versions behind, decent variety of hardware support, Plasma 6. I'd like to take these features, lab them until I understand them, then create some sort of build script that I can use to quickly deploy a desktop environment system to a new laptop/desktop/VM. I'm not locked into any specific distro yet, and a few people have discussed NICs or immutable OSs for this. What are your thoughts? What could be the biggest hurdles? So, you made the effort of writing a very detailed question, so I'll take the time later, probably over the weekend, to write a more detailed answer. And speaking of that, I remember that I still owe you another answer on the forum that I've had forgotten about for about 3 weeks, but it's still nagging me in the back of my head, so I'll get back to that as well. Now, your question. And let's see. So, the distribution that comes to my mind, and that will be of no surprise to anybody, is to take a look at Fedora and its atomic distributions. In this case, I'm not going to recommend Bluefin, because Bluefin is mainly focused on GNOME as the desktop environment, but either Aurora, which is going to be the variant of Bluefin that comes with KDE as the desktop environment, or if you want to go nearer to the origin, then I'd recommend Fedora Kinoite, which is the KDE variant of their atomic distribution. And the reasons why I recommend that is it does have the DistroBox tooling for isolated development environments. It comes with DistroBox pre-installed. Now we're talking about Aurora, I think, but even on vanilla Fedora Kinoite, you could easily install DistroBox. But let's focus on Aurora by Universal Blue then, because handily the team at Universal Blue thinks these things through, and that's why it already comes with DistroBox pre-installed. It has easy package management, mostly in terms of these containers, but you can also use Homebrew to easily install command line applications. And with Flatpak, you have a nice packaging system for graphical applications that you can both use with the graphical front end and from the command line simply using the Flatpak command. That makes installations easy as well. Fedora generally has these fully patched, updated kernels, and you're never going to run much behind the bleeding edge. That's what Fedora has been known for forever. And especially if you're talking about the Universal Blue variants, they definitely have a decent variety of hardware support. There are even specific variants for Microsoft Surface tablets and laptops, and the newer framework laptops with their specific hardware. So hardware support is definitely also a plus when it comes to the Universal Blue distributions. That should pretty much cover your requirements. And since you're asking, Fedora will be DNF, yes and no. If you run a Fedora workstation container, that will have DNF as its package manager, but the main system, if you're talking about the atomic distributions, will use RPM-OS tree as their package manager. And you generally use RPM-OS tree only to install the most essential packages that, for example, need to be available when your machine boots up. Everything else that might maybe depend on extended shell search paths and things like that can then be either installed via Homebrew or in containers, and then it'll depend on the distribution that you choose as the container image. You can easily, for example, install an Ubuntu container on Fedora or on Aurora or Bluefin, and then, of course, you'll use apt inside this container. So it depends on which level of the system we are talking about. On the host system, it's RPM-OS tree for the most important system packages. That's how I treat things. Then you'll use Flatpak for graphical graphical applications. And if it comes to command line tooling, programming environments and things like that, I would recommend using Homebrew or a container of your choice. Here's another question. How would you understand the level of a developer or engineer if he or she is junior, mid, or senior level? You mean, how do I judge the level at which someone is? Well, you need a specific set of criteria that you use to basically measure the progress someone has made in his career or her career. So it'll depend on how you define these levels. There are, of course, key performance indicators like, for example, the amount of tools or services or technologies someone has experience with, and that will only increase over time while you are progressing from junior over the mid-level to senior or even higher levels such as principal engineer or staff engineer. It's fortunate that the industry found ways to have a progressive career path for individual contributors. Back when I still was worried about my career, it was pretty prevalent still that at a certain point the only way to progress in terms of career and also in terms of salary would be to switch to the management career path, which is basically something completely different, but people somehow didn't account for this. From my current perspective, this kind of thinking was pretty much like, well, you are a senior engineer. If you want to progress further, you need to become, you need to go into landscaping. Because, yeah, the skill set and things that you need as a manager are completely different from what you need to do as a individual contributor. So I'm pretty happy to see this go away and people being offered additional steps that they can take to increase their influence, their salary, and of course also their job satisfaction, I guess. But getting back to the question, oftentimes you have seniors who are lacking in specific departments, and then again there are juniors who are surprisingly capable in terms of their skill levels and the spectrum of knowledge that they can draw from. So skills and technical expertise alone isn't really what I usually look at. I look at things that juniors usually can't come with, and that is, for example, leadership qualities in terms of being able to, say, sell you a solution, to convince you to go with a specific option and with a specific approach. Even though many juniors come up with great ideas, they might be lacking the social skills, the confidence, the social standing to actually move the needle, to move people to go in a specific direction. And that'll hopefully improve over time with them becoming more senior. And so that, for example, is something that I would expect from a senior. For example, as a manager, in my role as a CTO, for example, I expect a senior to be able to sit at the table with me and show me options A, B, and C, and then tell me why they would recommend option B and push for that solution. If a senior comes and only offers me option A and tells me that's the way to go, that is already a red flag, because that means they basically are running with blinders on and only considering one single alternative. There's a saying that I can't quite remember at the moment. I need to look that up. It's about people who have only one offer, people who have two offers, and then people who have three offers. Yeah, I need to memorize that, because it really looked pretty helpful for me. And if you know what I mean, feel free to post that in chat. So, yeah, there are some kind of meta skills that I would not expect a junior to be able to produce, while I would expect them from a senior. So if someone comes, even with great technical expertise, and would like to be promoted to a senior role, I would pretty much also check these meta skills in terms of how they work within a team, how they are able to lead a team, not in a disciplinary way, but in terms of the more physical leading, which means people follow you for specific reasons and not just because of role power. And so it's a mix of these things. Juniors might be lacking in all these areas and might be improving in some of them, but in terms of reaching a senior level, you probably will have to focus on more things than just technical skills and knowledge. You need to work on your social skills, you need to work on how to make an argument, how to convince people, and also maybe being able to teach, not specifically in sitting down and preparing a course on things, but for example, to be able to get accepted and then do a talk at a conference. That's definitely also something that makes a senior engineer. They should be able to write an abstract that convinces the program committee of a conference that this is a talk they should add to their schedule, and you should also be able to then give that talk in a coherent way. And having just returned from a conference, I was at StackConf in Berlin from Monday to Wednesday this week. That definitely reaffirmed in myself that I need to give more talks again, because some of the talks that I witnessed were abysmal. People not having a through line through their talk, people talking in a monotone voice as if someone had forced them to go on stage and talk about something, not being able to convey some enthusiasm and things like that. People continuously looking for words as if someone had pushed their slide deck upon them and now they needed to make the best of it. these are things where I would say a senior engineer should be able to do a coherent talk that convinces people to look into a topic, to become interested in a topic, or maybe even enthusiastic about a topic, and also be able to explain things in a coherent way without searching for words all the time, as I am at the moment, because I have to come up with this answer from the top of my head instead of having prepared a talk. So if you want to consider yourself a senior, that's definitely also something that you should take into account. Again, if I missed a point that you are interested in, or if you'd like me to go deeper on a specific item that I mentioned, please keep adding questions to the board, which is at qa.monospacementor.com. Three Pooch asked, but what if I am not interested in leadership and just go for code and deliver solutions? I assume that you mean leadership in the non-disciplinary sense, because I think we already covered that to the necessary extent. I think, for me at least, this being able to become something like a team lead or a tech lead would be mandatory for career progression. You can't just sit in a corner and stare at your IDE and expect to get a raise and more recognition and things like that. And the reason is, it's not about you. It's about creating value for the business that pays your salary. And just being a better programmer and being more efficient, for example, than less senior people, doesn't make you a senior developer. You need to expand your skill set. And part of that skill set is, for example, being able to do a presentation, to introduce people to a specific topic where you already have experience, being able to tell a junior about, say, how to deal with containers and things like that. That is all part and parcel of progressing in your career. And just being a nerd, sitting there and mastering their tiling window manager and working without a mouse, that is not enough to be and be paid as a senior developer, at least not from my perspective. Praxeus emphasizes my point. Leadership doesn't have to mean people manager. That's what I meant by disciplinary power or role power, where you have the label team lead, head of some department or something like that. Leadership simply means that you can ask people or call people to follow you, and then they do. Because you actually put in the work to create trust in you. And so people trust you and therefore follow you. That they trust your expertise, they trust your fairness, that they trust your sense of efficiency, things like that. It's about building trust within your team and therefore building a virtual followership, something like that. So people will follow you not because you are blessed with role power, but because it makes sense to follow you. That being said, let's continue what Proxeus said. In my opinion, I'm always looking for other seasoned veterans who are excited to share the knowledge they have with team members who don't have those skills. Exactly. That's what I mean with leadership in the broader sense than just role power. Suda Please says, why are so many people more interested in talking about how to do stuff rather than just doing stuff? Maybe because by talking about stuff, you get better at it? Anthony Poot says, I misunderstood leadership in a negative way. Yeah, many people do because they experienced leadership and management in a negative way. I can wholeheartedly relate. The sharing knowledge and helping out is what I prefer instead of disciplined team members or deciding if they have to leave. Yeah, these are things that are limited to people who have role power, who are who have a management role. They need to decide who to fire, who to hire, who gets a salary raise, if people maybe would be better off switching teams, things like that. And but there is more to leadership than simply doing these disciplinary actions. That's more or less management in the more mechanical way. It's managing staff, just like you manage an inventory, basically. But leadership is something different. There's a nice comparison. If you have a group of people who need to cross a jungle to get to the other side, of course you have the people who need to carry all the wares and luggage and things like that, and people who blaze a trail and things like that, and coordinate who carries what and things like that. So that's the distinction between contributors and managers, because I think managers are the people who then assign jobs to different people who say, okay, you carry stuff, you go ahead and chop trees, and you take care of bandaging people and things like that. But a leader is someone who climbs up a tree, looks around and shouts, "Wrong jungle." And that doesn't require role power. Proxy says at 3 foot, more and more roles are looking that way. Yeah, that's fortunate. Not enough, I would say, from what I can see, but it's getting better. Oh, someone wants me to go down a rabbit hole. Oh, I'm so sorry. Pressed the wrong key. Just a second. I'll get you back. Move to... Here we go. I wanted to make this bigger instead of clicking it away. What are your favorite keycaps, not switches? For quite a while now, I have been typing on CAT keycaps, K-A-T, which are more high-profile keycaps, and I have them on my split keyboard right here. As you can see, I'm using a split keyboard, and since it's flat on my table, having more high-profile keycaps is helpful because the rows that are further away are a little bit raised and thus easier for my fingers to reach. But actually, I don't even use the top key row here because I'm mostly using a 5x3 grid for my keyboard layouts. That being said, this cat keycap profile and set is pretty nice. Most of my keycap sets are GMK keycap sets, which are made with ABS plastic, but ABS has... I'm not sure if I really enjoy the smoothness that comes with ABS. The other main material keycaps are made of is PBT. I'm pretty sure the P stands for poly, but I don't know what the B and the T stands for, actually. And PBT keycaps have a little bit more of a rough texture. And I tend to enjoy that because simply for the tactile sensation of being able to feel the texture of the keycaps. On the other hand, this CAT keycap set that I'm using right now is also made from ABS and smooth, and it's not really bad as well. So yeah, I'm pretty flexible in that regard, but I think I like the PBT-based keycaps a little bit more simply for the little bit rougher texture. And yes, Praxeus says, I remember the days of wearing out keycaps. You could spot the home row by the polished glow. That pretty much happens with these ABS keys. They are smooth to begin with, and then you further smooth them out the more you use them, and you can actually see that. Usually if they are made with high quality, they don't wear out, because usually the good keycaps are what's called double shot, which is basically the keycap itself is made from one plastic, one color, and the legends are spared out and then injected with a different colored plastic, and therefore and then they basically fuse, and that means while you wear your keycap down, you wear both of those plastics down, the main keycap and the legend. You don't rub off the legend, as is the case if they are just printed on top of the keycap. As I said, yeah, I knew from the start this would get me into a rabbit hole where I need to be wary to not keep rambling on for the rest of our office hour, which is almost over. We still have 10 minutes to go, and then I'll have to finish in time. I did already announced that yesterday during my co-working stream. Unfortunately, the reason why I have to stop early or in time isn't the same anymore. I was expecting to have a massage therapy session later, but the therapist had to postpone because they just came back from holidays and didn't even know that someone had scheduled an appointment for me with them, and so we had to postpone to next week. But I still am going to end quite in time, because I'll have to help my wife setting up her business website, and yeah, I guess that's even more important than me getting a massage. So let's go into the final rounds of our Q&A session. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them to qa.monospacementor.com. There's quite some coffee left. Maybe we'll keep going until I've finished my coffee here, which probably will take me a little bit more than the remaining 9 minutes. And I mean, I can even just sit here patiently for questions to come in. Praxis says it's so much easier winning a staring contest when you can't see us. Now I'm imagining all of you staring at me, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. No, just kidding. All right, there is another question, which is an interesting question, to be honest. Would you ever move to the US for the salary they offer? Short question is no, but I'd be lying if I said I never looked at the salaries that get paid over in the US with a wistful eye, because boy, oh boy, I never had anything like that. Having my own business has a lot of perks, and I value them highly, but my salary is nowhere near the levels that a single developer gets paid over in the US. Even though I'm not an individual contributor, not only am I a manager, but also I own half of my business, and so I'm taking all the risk and things like that. And compared to what I would get as a simple developer, with simple, of course, in quotation marks, yeah, that sometimes makes me wonder. Shouldn't I simply have gotten a paid job instead of starting my own business? But then again, salary isn't everything, and the level of job satisfaction and freedom I get to enjoy running my own business is definitely worth a cut in salary. But yeah, sometimes I imagine, what would I do with a salary of 150k a year or even more? On the other hand, these salaries usually get paid for a reason, not only because of the pain you have to endure, but also because of the cost of living, which is quite different in many places in the US than they are where I am or where other people are. I mean, if I have to pay 5k in rent every month, then I would definitely need a salary raise. Now there's another slew of questions coming in, forcing me to keep going. What system do you use to track Git projects you want to try? It's simple. I use or abuse the stars. A project that I find interesting, I simply star that repository on GitHub or on GitLab. And not only is that a reminder that it's something that I would like to follow up on, it even triggers a social media post that goes out automatically proclaiming that I've added this project to the list of projects that I'd like to try out. I've wired this automation up using make.com. As soon as I star a repository, the system schedules a post that I'm interested in it, and so that makes things quite easy, and I don't have to manage a list of projects or something like that, or extend my to-do list endlessly. If I have time to look into things, I simply check out the list of starred repositories I have on GitHub or on GitLab, and then I'll try stuff out. And here's another question. What is the best way to choose open source projects to contribute to? What factors should be your considerations? The first thing that I usually look at if I'm about, or if I'm looking for a solution or looking for something to contribute to, is how well maintained is the project. When has been the latest change in this repository? Has it been 9 days or has it been 9 months? How many pull requests are still piling up? If there are pull requests from 2018 that haven't been addressed, that haven't been closed because they either have been rejected or because they have been merged, then that's a red flag for me. And then, of course, There's the official documentation. If someone posted an extensive documentation how to contribute to their project, if they even made the effort of adding a code of conduct, for example, if they have a contributor agreement or things like that, that also shows me how interested people are in getting help, in building a community around the project. And those are all criteria that I check before I get involved with something. If a repository is the opposite, with pull requests laying around that are years old, an issue queue of 589 issues, even though the project itself is not drawing lots of users. Sometimes the length of an issue queue is a little bit misleading, because there are projects that are so popular that people keep posting feature requests and all kinds of stuff, regardless if they make sense or not. And that sometimes bloats the issue queue immensely. And that's not a bad sign. It just means that people that sometimes it's a little bit too easy to post issues. But if it's a small project that certainly doesn't have that huge of a user base, and still there are lots of issues that are not resolved, that might not even have gotten a single response yet, things like that, that's something that tells me, maybe in that case it might even be better to fork the project and try and do a better job at building a community around it, at involving people in the development of your project and things like that. In the context of moving to the US, Balthasar said, yeah, but then you have to deal with our politics. Oh, yes, of course. It's not only the that I'm happy where I am right now and with the salary that I get right now. It's also because I definitely would not want to endure what's going on in the US politically. Praxeus agrees, Irish countryside greater than US politics. Irish politics have their own issues, and I won't get into those right now. There's also a list of things, but yeah, I guess with the US being orders of magnitude bigger than Ireland, the issues, politically or not, are also orders of magnitude bigger. Unfortunately. And in terms of participating, Balthasar recommends contribute to projects you use. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because that's effort that not only other people will benefit from, but yourself. And that, I guess, is the shortest way to contribute to things, because as a user of the project, you already have experience how it ticks and things like that. And so, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's a great recommendation as well. Okay, my coffee levels in my cup are getting lower, while my caffeine levels are raising in my bloodstream. So get those questions in, post them to qa.monospacementor.com, and I'll try and answer them. Balthasar added, more importantly, your commit history will be more than superficial commits to projects that you actually have some domain expertise. Yeah, makes sense. I guess the counter example that comes to mind are those Hacktoberfest contributions, where people submit pull requests simply for changes in white space and corrected typos and things like that. Just so they can get their contribution points up. and which is but without being really helpful or significantly moving the needle for a project. Yeah, definitely. If you contribute to something that you use yourself, that means you have a complete different perspective on things regarding that project, and you might actually be also familiar with policies of the maintainers. For example, you know what not to propose because other people already tried, and you know that they didn't get through for hopefully a sensible reason that the maintainers expressed when they rejected the suggestion. Praxis adds, the only way to build domain experience is working in that domain. Yeah, definitely. Y'all are making great points there. Ah, 26 degrees again. At least inside my little box office here. Despite me running the fan in the window, so I would have to have an AC unit to significantly lower my temperatures. Sure, the opposite can be true as well. Balthasar writes, that said, I've slung commits in projects I've barely touched before, and the team was happy to have them. Yeah, that just shows that people can make valuable contributions to projects without being deeply involved with them. But yeah, that simply requires to be a sensible person and to know what to do, and I agree with Balthasar, so don't be afraid to do that. All right, folks, we are a few minutes past the hour. There aren't any questions on the board anymore, so that's a good time to wrap things up. Let me check things. Yeah, okay. I would say let's try and raid someone. I saw a few people going online in the meantime. Let's see who's there. Not too many people I would be interested in raiding. But since we were talking about Fedora earlier, let's raid Orwellian, who's hacking on Fedora infrastructure applications. He's involved with the Fedora team directly, so if you have any Fedora questions, he might be a great person to ask. So let me line that up for us. Can I see that in here? There's a new raid UI that I need to get used to. Asen, welcome to the stack. Thank you for the follow. I definitely appreciate it. So here we are. Let's start the raid to raid Orwellian. Thanks for participating, for all the chats, and thank you for your questions. This stream lives off your questions. Thanks for being so considerate and kind. I hope you're having a great Friday, and then have a great weekend as well. I hope to see you next week to my other live streams, and until then, take care.